Welcome to Mental Health Matters, a compelling series brought to you by Ontario Shore's Centre for Mental Health Sciences. Every week, we share stories of hope, recovery, and resilience, accompanied by expert advice and resources to help navigate and understand the complexities of mental health. Situated on the shores of Lake Ontario, Ontario Shores is a dedicated public teaching hospital. We provide specialized assessment and treatment services for those living with complex and serious mental illness. Our unwavering commitment to exceptional patient care is built on safe and evidence-based approaches, ensuring successful outcomes through clinical best practices and cutting-edge research. From adolescence to geriatrics, our recovery-oriented environment fosters discovery, recovery, and hope. Mental Health Matters is an opportunity for all of us to learn, grow, and support each other on this journey of well-being. Each episode focuses on breaking down the stigma surrounding mental health through crucial conversations and fostering empathy within families, schools, workplaces, and communities. Join us as we embark on an exploration of the topic of mental health. Together, we make a difference.
Welcome to a special episode of Mental Health Matters. I'm Julie Van Hardingsveld, and I'm here in the Region of Durham Heritage Lounge at Ontario Shores. Our show illuminates important and often overlooked aspects of mental health. Today, we embark on a journey down memory lane to commemorate Ontario Shores' remarkable 100th anniversary of providing specialized mental health care in Durham Region since 1919. Join us as we celebrate this historical milestone with our esteemed ambassadors of hope, who have played a pivotal role in shaping our legacy of compassion and excellence. Later in the episode, we invite you to relive the joyous moments from our celebration of a century of care at Ontario Shores as we highlight some of our most inspiring moments from our momentous 2019. From humble beginnings to becoming a beacon of hope for generations, our commitment to mental health care has only grown stronger over the past century. We are honored to have you with us on this momentous occasion as we reflect on our rich history and look ahead to a future of continued care, compassion, and innovation. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. Let's celebrate the 100 years of transforming lives at Ontario Shores together.
Over the last century, Ontario Shores and the mental health sector has been rapidly changing in an effort to positively impact the lives of people living with mental illness. Ontario Shores has been at the forefront of this evolution through its recovery model of care based on the principles of empowerment, hope, identity, and the meaning in life. In 2014, the Hope Campaign was launched to create a movement to foster hope for those impacted by mental illness. Patients, families, staff, volunteers, and community members collaborated to design the Hope T-shirt, which has become a popular fashion choice throughout the hospital and within the community. The next step in the campaign was the creation of the Hope Song, which was inspired by conversations with people whose lives have been impacted by mental illness. The Hope Song became a music video and is now considered the anthem of Ontario Shores. The music is used as the intro music for the hospital's Mind Vine podcast.
In 1911, architect James Govan consulted with psychiatrists, physicians, and government officials to develop a design for a new mental health center on the shores of Lake Ontario. His dream became a reality thanks to 217 laborers who worked on the original construction of 16 cottages built along tree-lined roads. Govan's design served the needs of the day, but by the early 1990s, talk of a replacement was in the works. In 1993, the Ontario government, under the leadership of Premier Bob Rae, approved $133 million for the design and construction of a new 325-bed mental health facility. The new facility design focused on the use of natural light, calming lakeside views, and the natural beauty of the grounds. Construction on the new building began in 1994, while Govan's original design continued to provide care to people living with mental illness. When the current building officially opened in 1996, more than 5,000 people attended its celebration.
Welcome to the Ontario Shores Farm, or at least the grounds which were farmed by patients and staff for more than 5 decades. Beginning in the early 1900s, more than 400 of the 640-acre hospital site was used for farming. The farm provided occupational therapy for patients and helped reduce the costs of running the hospital. Cattle, pigs, and chickens provided milk, meat, and eggs, while a 75-acre garden, which included a large potato field, produced enough food to provide 3 meals a day to a patient population that seldom dropped below 1,500. The on-site cannery saw patients and staff produce jams, ketchups, and relishes, in addition to preserved tomatoes, beans, corns, and peas. The evolution of mental health care and changing therapies brought a greater focus on community care and reduced the role of farming by the early 1960s. While farming operations stopped by the late 1960s, health and nutrition and its impact on mental health lives on each day at Ontario Shores through the balanced meals we provide, along with therapeutic, recreational, and wellness opportunities made available to patients and staff.
Over the last century, Ontario Shores has had a number of different names. Before ground broke, we were known as Whitby Hospital. During World War I, we became a convalescent home for wounded veterans and renamed the Ontario Military Hospital. Following the war, the hospital's focus shifted to mental health and officially opened as the Ontario Hospital for the Insane on October 23, 1919. As mental health and the stigma surrounding it continued to evolve, so did the name of the hospital. After bearing the names Ontario Hospital Whitby, the Whitby Psychiatric Hospital, and Whitby Mental Health Centre, the organization was rebranded in 2009 to become Ontario Shores Centre for Mental Health Sciences. The new name and brand is a more accurate representation of the hospital's provincial mandate, beautiful grounds, and its commitment to recovery. Since becoming Ontario Shores, the hospital has grown its international reputation as a leader in the delivery of exemplary care and a dedicated partner in creating a more collaborative, accessible, and effective mental health care system in Ontario.
Stigma has been a significant factor throughout the 100 years Ontario Shores has been delivering mental health care. In the early days, it was common for society to use offensive and stigmatizing language to describe people living with mental illness and the organizations that provided mental health care. The portrayal of people living with mental illness in movies and TV shows played a significant role in developing a perception within society of what it meant to receive treatment. In 2006, Ontario Shores became a public hospital and set forth to enhance the community's understanding of mental health. In recent years, Ontario Shores has challenged the stigma of psychiatric care by inviting the community to its facility through a series of public events, including concerts and educational workshops. Today, we proudly celebrate our role in the community and the exemplary care we provide by sharing inspiring stories of recovery told by patients and families impacted by mental illness.
Mental health care looks a lot different today than it did 100 years ago. In recent decades, data collection and technology has played a crucial role in changing the way people access care and communicate with their mental health care teams. Shortly after becoming a public hospital in 2006, Ontario Shores began the journey of creating a completely paperless health information system which advances the use of patient data to ultimately improve process and performance. In the years since, the hospital has been applauded for its unwavering commitment to a paperless environment on multiple occasions, including receiving the prestigious HIMSS Stage 7 Award in 2014. Ontario Shores became the first hospital in Canada and the first mental health hospital in the world to receive this prestigious recognition. Additionally, Ontario Shores launched Health Check, its online patient portal, which allows patients to communicate with their clinicians, manage appointments, and refill prescriptions electronically. Patients also have the ability to see clinicians virtually thanks to the secure video conferencing services provided through a partnership with OTN.
Just to start off the conversation, like from both your perspectives, what does this day and turning 100 mean to both of you?
It went by fast. It went by really, really quickly. So I think to have a celebration to kick it off and to have a celebration to sort of really pay tribute to the 100 years that Ontario Shores has been here. I think the fact that we are talking about it and we're celebrating it is huge. So I think it's just important from the front end, and then as we have reached it, even though it's happened really quickly.
So, I mean, when you think about 100 years and you think about the amount of time that the organization has been in the community, what it really talks about is the need, right? So 100 years ago, there was a need for service in the community. There was a need to be able to address mental health and addictions at that time. And 100 years later, we're still providing that service. And so our organization, our ability to be able to do that is what has kept us relevant. If that need didn't exist anymore, we wouldn't be relevant. If our ability to actually help people and make them better wasn't possible, we wouldn't be relevant. So 100 years tells me a lot about the organization, about the way it's reinvented itself, how it's remained relevant in today's society, and the fact that the need still exists and we have to continue to try and provide that care in a modern sort of way.
It was probably 18 months or longer ago that we started talking about what we were going to do for our 100th anniversary. And I know specifically for you and senior management, it was really important that we do something that touches all of our stakeholders, like not just our staff, but our patients, our community, our families, volunteers. So why was that a priority for us to celebrate this milestone?
So first of all, I think, it's a celebration of the community. So I think there's levels of celebration. So there's a celebration of the community. The community has welcomed Ontario Shores over the last 100 years. We have been a part of the fabric of the city, of this region. So it's been really important that relationship, that partnership between the community and our organization actually be celebrated. When I met somebody who's in politics right now, regionally, and I was talking about Ontario Shores, and he said to me, "Do you know that when I was really young, I actually worked at Ontario Shores by supporting sort of the maintenance of the typewriters." And so almost everybody in the community has been connected to Ontario Shores in some way, either because a family member has received care, perhaps they have worked at Ontario Shores, perhaps their companies have done business with Ontario Shores. So we have to celebrate that. We are a powerful part of the community.
And I think that doing the 100-year celebration over the past year, it's given us the opportunity to talk to people in the community and raise the visibility. And it's interesting that stories like that come out. I mean, you probably never would have heard that story. So it really is woven into the fabric of our whole community.
And so that's part of the experience that you've had in the last year. And I wonder if you could back it up a little bit and talk about when you saw the call for ambassadors in celebration of our 100th anniversary, why you decided to kind of step forward.
Oh, I jumped all over it. I jumped all over it because I'm all about the conversation around stigma. So for me as a mental health advocate, you sort of have to pick an angle. It's such a big elephant that you have to decide where are you going to focus your attention. And because I live with a mental illness and it's part of my family, and it has been part of my family for decades and generations, it was important to be allowed to have this platform to talk about having a meaningful life and making meaningful contributions to the community. Maybe not in spite of, but because of my mental illness. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to talk to other people who are experiencing mental illness, and maybe, just maybe, they start looking at it in a little more positive light.
You've been working in mental health for a long time, Kareem, and I know as we've held the speaker series around the Centre of Care, which Laurie's been a part of, and our other ambassadors and different events, you've been a part of that. You've been listening and soaking up all the experiences. What does it mean to you to have the ambassador program and have people like Laurie celebrating our anniversary on our behalf?
So it's been spectacular. So, you can't have the conversation about mental health without talking about our clients. And as an organization, we have made a major commitment to recovery. We have talked about how it is that that people feel when they receive care at Ontario Shores? What is it about that experience that would differentiate being at Ontario Shores versus being at any other organization? And part of that is the compact that exists between we as providers and our clients, and that relationship is one of trust and empowerment, and having having that relationship be a part of the recovery journey that takes place for the individual. And so how could it not be that we would have people who have an illness or a mental illness or an experience not be a part of the celebration, right? And be, in fact, our spokespersons for the organization, because that's what we want at the end of the day to have, is when people leave here having received care, that they leave and enter in the community. They're our spokespersons, they're our ambassadors about what it is that Ontario Shores is doing for the community. And so this is just a microcosm. Lori and the others are just a microcosm of what that vision is about trying to get people to talk about Ontario Shores and mental illness.
We've had a couple different guests today with different stories, and we have a very inspiring story with our guest here today, in Ali Walker. Ali, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Ali is a country musician, but she's not necessarily one that you might think of when you think of country music and maybe some of the traditional artists associated with it. She has a brand of music that I think really plays well with what we do here at Ontario Shores, which we'll get into. But I was wondering, Ali, maybe you could just first tell us a little bit about you and growing up and how you got into music.
Well, first of all, I didn't know that a few years ago you had something called mindful music. And I call my music mindful music and conscious country, and I swear I came up with that. So thank you for not trademarking it.
I think we really missed an opportunity there.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? Just good start here.
Just take us through your introduction to music.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm from Prince Edward Island, and I moved to Toronto when I was 19, which was 10 years ago, to have more opportunities in music. And I really didn't start singing until my senior year in high school, and which is actually kind of late I was a late bloomer in the singing world, and I just auditioned for my high school musical. I ended up getting the lead role, and my parents were completely shocked because they never heard me sing a note in my life. And I just got the bug, and that summer I took lessons from the professor at the university there, and I said, make me good enough to get into the vocal program. So I spent a year at university as a vocal major, did not enjoy it. I mean, I learned lots, but it was classical music, and I really loved country music. And so I just packed up, moved to Toronto, and really had nowhere to live for about a week, lived on my friend's floor, and then she kicked me out, and I just kind of walked up and down Yonge Street until I found an apartment.
That's a country song right there, isn't it?
Oh, God. It was a bad time, but found a place, and ever since then, I've just been kind of paying my dues, as I should say, playing all the bars, singing anywhere I can, going to Nashville, writing songs, really just ticking all the boxes of development, because one of my songs that you'll hear here is about being a perfectionist, and I really wanted to make sure that my first impression was a good one. So I basically spent the last 10 years working on my craft because I was a late bloomer, and that as a musician and as just, a typical blonde country singer, you kind of have to find something that separates you from the pack. And I was always trying to be the next Taylor Swift or trying to be the next Carrie Underwood, and it really wasn't organic to me. And I went through different things in my journey, and one of them was not drinking anymore, and I was singing songs about like breakups, booze, and boys, and I'm happily married and I don't drink anymore, so I was like, well, there's nothing left to talk about. But I just started talking about what was actually going on in my life, and that was, my mental health journey and social media and how that plays a huge role with comparison and judging yourself and learning to love yourself and working through perfectionism or anxiety or depression. And I was just writing songs for myself and not really expecting to share it with the world. And then I did, and it ended up
getting a good response because nobody really talks about mental health in music, and especially not in country music. So about a year ago, I started putting out one song every month. And then last month, I guess, I put my first album out, and it's under, I call it the Basement Sessions, What I've Learned So Far, because I lived in Hamilton and I wrote and recorded everything in my basement. Exciting life. And it's called What I Learned So Far because it's literally just what I've learned so far. And I call it mindful music and conscious country.
So we're happy that you're using mindful music, and we gladly gift that to you to use.
Thank you.
We have a theme because when we first started here, we ran a speaker series called Let's Talk before Bell. So we got to trademark some of these things. We're a little late out of the gate.
What the heck?
Yeah, I know. It's our bad. But I'm just curious, when you made that decision to write about those personal things in mental health, was that a tough hill to climb? Were you a little nervous about, if I do this, is it really, are people going to listen? Are they going to judge me? Or is this sort of, from a career path, a bad road to go down?
Well, I kind of started really diving into my mental health because I had really, really bad acne for many years, and I was just on this long journey of like hating what I looked like when I looked in the mirror. And I think that self-confidence can play a huge part in really diminishing your mental health and your self-confidence. So I was just looking in the mirror, hating what I looked like every day, and it wasn't going away. So I had to go on the path of loving myself, no matter what I looked like. And I was sick of just kind of hiding. I was that typical Instagram girl, face tuning the crap out of my face and really not portraying what I actually look like online. And I got sick of it, and I just posted a picture with like a full inflamed face, and I said, hey, I've been lying to you. This is what I actually look like. And I just expected everybody to unfollow me because at that point I had the wrong followers because I was posting those fake pictures. And it was actually the complete opposite because I got just a plethora of messages of people saying, oh my God, maybe I don't have acne, but I can relate to you because I have this scar that no one's ever seen and I've only worn long sleeves, or, you know, I'm dealing with this and nobody knows about it, or you gave me the confidence to just go to the grocery store without makeup, which just seems small, but it's actually quite big if you've never done it. And that to me was like, yep, this is what I'm meant to do. I don't care that I might not write a hit song about, you know, being in my Daisy Dukes in a truck, because that's not me. And, you know, I can deal with not having commercial #1 success in that world until we start becoming more comfortable with talking about things like this, which I think we are, which is amazing. To me, if I'm impacting somebody, that means way more than any of that.
We have a very special guest with us today. Many of you know it's Brian Burke. He's a longtime hockey executive, current broadcaster with Sportsnet. You'll see him on Hockey Night in Canada, and you'll see him tonight on Sportsnet.
I get nervous when people say currently.
Well, you never know. You could leave town and get a job somewhere else, right? Like that's pretty common in your profession. So, well, first of all, thank you for being here on this this day.
My pleasure. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's for us. This has been more than a year in the making in terms of the celebration. We've been celebrating at every possible point in the months leading up to this day, and thank you for making it one. It's going to be memorable for our patients, our staff, our community. So, thank you. We're going to talk a lot of things today. We're not just going to talk about mental health, although we're going to get to that, but Brian's an interesting guy for a lot of reasons. In the hockey world, he would probably be your stereotypical hockey guy. Who's you probably consider yourself old school in terms of a lot of your opinions, but forward thinking in a lot of different issues, which is why we thought you'd be a good fit with us. So maybe we can just start with how you got into being a hockey executive, because I know that you were a player. You eventually went to law school. Like, how did you get hooked up on the hockey side?
Well, I can put everyone in here to sleep if I tell the whole story. The shorter story is I didn't start playing hockey till I was 13. We moved to Minnesota when I was 12. I started playing the next year, and any of you that played or have kids that play, that's very late to start. It's almost a guarantee that you're never going to make it. But I worked hard. I ended up playing 1 year of high school hockey, then 4 years college hockey. Was not drafted, but then my rights were claimed by the Philadelphia Flyers. Signed with them after my senior year. Played 1 year in the American League. We won the Calder Cup. We had a great year, and I loved it. I had another year on my contract, but I'd been accepted to Harvard Law School, and they told me I either had to come in the fall or give up my spot. They would only let me defer for a year, and I wasn't the first kid they admitted that year, so I went back. I wasn't a very good pro hockey player either. Like, we had a really good team. I didn't hardly play. I had gotten as far as I could get on guts and hard work. At some point, you need talent, and I didn't have it.
So from law school, what happened then?
So I started practicing law in Massachusetts. I'm still licensed to practice there. And then I got into representing players. And so we had a reunion of our Calder Cup team in Portland, Maine. And Pat Quinn was the coach of the team that won the next year. So the Flyers farm team won back-to-back Calder Cups. I was only on the first team. And we had a reunion. So it was about 4 in the morning, and all the wives had gone to bed. It was just the players and coaches. And I was talking to Pat about the agent business, which teams did things right and which teams didn't. And he said, would you ever consider coming to Vancouver working for me? And I said no at the time. I was embarrassed. I felt like I'd been pitching myself for a job, and I wasn't. But the next day I said, if you're serious, I'd love to go. So that's how I got started. Pat Quinn gave me my chance.
And I mean, we're all familiar with Pat Quinn, living where we do and his tenure with the Leafs, and listening to the radio, and especially around his passing, all the Pat Quinn stories. I imagine you have 1 or 2 Pat Quinn stories.
Well, the first thing was, people realized, like, Pat had time for everyone. Like, I remember the first time I flew with him, I showed up at the airport like 90 minutes before the flight, and I had really nice dress pants on and a dress shirt. Pat had a suit on. He goes, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going to Toronto with you. He said, not dressed like that, you look like a bum. And my ex-wife, my first ex-wife, had just given me these pants. I thought they were really nice. So I wore a suit from then on. But then I walked to the gate, and Pat got on the plane right when they closed the door. He couldn't walk through a building like this. He got stopped constantly by people, and he had time for everyone. He talked to everyone, signed autographs, just before selfies. No one asked for pictures, but he had time for everybody. He had a horrible temper, but just a great man. So it was a pleasure to work for him. But we built into a schedule 2 hours a day we called Pat Quinn time, where people would just show up that used to play with him, or his neighbor. A guy would show up while I was Pat's neighbor in Hamilton. That's an hour. He'd go in and Pat would give him an hour. So we set aside 2 hours a day for Pat Quinn time, just for him to be nice to people. I never needed 2 hours to be nice to people.
Hello there, this is Karim Mamdani, and I'm proud to introduce myself as the President and CEO of Ontario Shores Centre for Mental Health Sciences. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode and for joining us in these important conversations about mental health. I just wanted to take a moment to express sincere appreciation to the incredible team at Ontario Shores for their exceptional work. Our team of compassionate and skilled clinicians and staff work tirelessly to provide life-saving treatment and unwavering support for our patients and their loved ones who are facing the challenging impacts of mental illness. At Ontario Shores, recovery is possible and there is hope. I invite you to visit ontarioshores.ca to learn more about our work. On our website, you can explore our career and volunteer opportunities, learn about our programs and services, and find out how you can make a difference through donations.